Welcome to the New England Endurance Podcast. I'm your host, Art Trapotsis, along with my co-host, Eric Schenker. Hey, Eric.
What's up, Art? How you doing?
I'm doing great. Today, we're going to be with Pat Caron from the Trail Animals Running Club, otherwise known as TARC.
Just to be clear, you asked me, so what do they have to do with animals? This is like, do they all run with dogs and things? So I was like,
oh,
no,
man,
they
you're
don't.
Calling me out.
I'm calling you out right away.
So TARC is the largest trail and ultra running group in the Northeast, with its home base in eastern Massachusetts. I can't wait to hear about this.
I'm really excited for this one today because TARC saved one of my favorite races from extinction.
Oh, yeah?
Okay,
a hidden gem in New England?
Yeah, but do you get it? Like trail animals saved from extinction. I mean, I've been working on that one for a while, but they saved absolutely one of my favorite races called the Stonecat, and we're going to get into that later. TARC is a nonprofit running club that aims to act as a community stewards by providing equitable access to trail running and promoting a positive trail running culture.
Like waving to people?
Like waving to people, which is very important to me, as everyone knows. Pat here has won and set dozens of course records at numerous trail and road races throughout the years and currently holds the fastest ever 100-mile times in the world for 19 and 20-year-olds.
Freaking legend.
So Patrick joined Solomon's international running team in 2017 and has been working closely with the brand in various capacities ever since. Hopefully we've thoroughly embarrassed you enough, Pat. Welcome to the New England Endurance Podcast.
Hey, yeah, thanks for having me on. Very excited to be here and chat with you guys today about all things trail running.
So the Trail Animals Run Club, we're just going to say TARC from here on out, but is the largest trail and ultra running group in the Northeast. Tell us about the club. Tell us about the size. Tell us about the mission. Like dive into, give everybody that's never heard of TARC the download on TARC.
Definitely, yeah. And it's funny, Art, that you also thought maybe there was some dog or animal component to it, because I didn't realize that was such a common misconception until actually the Boston Run Show and then the Boston Outdoor Show this spring, where I feel like that was like the first interaction with people not familiar with TARC, who were seeing, the logo, seeing the brand, and everyone's like, so do I have to have a dog to run with you guys? Or
well, in fairness to me, we've had a number of folks in this podcast who run with their dogs, including Eric Schenker. So I thought,
it makes sense.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about Canicross and things like that.
There you go.
Yeah. So we're always like, no, we are the trail animals. We embrace the animal nature, I guess, of things. But yeah, TARC, it's been around since 1994. So kind of a long history, and first started hosting races in 1997. And yeah, now we host 11 races throughout the year, from all the way from 5K to we have got a 30-plus hour long ultra in the middle of the winter, and also host group runs pretty much 2-3 times a month, both at Blue Hills Reservation and then Great Brook Farm State Park. More on the North Shore. And
when specifically do those happen? We like to have sort of a calendar to share with folks.
So the week of the month sort of fluctuates a bit, but it's always Saturday mornings that the group runs are hosted. But then we sort of work around our race calendars. So yeah, whenever a race is not happening, there's usually a group run. And the races are pretty much every month from January to December. But yeah, TARC as a community, I think we really try to promote try to really focus on the accessibility of trail running. I think trail running as a sport can seem intimidating from the outside, and it's like, wait a moment, you like run on those things and like you're on a mountain. Yeah, I think some people's impression is it comes across as intimidating. And I think we try to say, oh no, this really can be something for everyone. And we have distances for everyone. And so that's we're less focused on the competitive side of things and more on introducing new people to the sport. And then
I love that.
Also really connecting people with the land that they run on. And so all of our event proceeds are donated back to the land trusts and, locations that we host the runs on. So that's, I think, another big component of being sort of stewards for the trails that we run. I think sometimes there's maybe we take for granted like the trails that we have access to. And so, yeah.
And so are you in charge of membership? What's your exact role there?
So I joined the board of directors this past summer. So to take it from the beginning, like I first was introduced to TARC maybe back in 2014 when I was back in high school, and I was sort of looking for other groups besides just my high school cross country team to run with, and I wanted to do more trails. And so that's when I first discovered the club, and then I ran my first ultra with the club in 2015 at the Fall Classic in Carlisle. And so sort of continued to race a lot of their events. And then in 2022, I actually joined as the race director for the Fall Classic. So the first ultra that I ran, so kind of came full circle with that. And then, this past summer joined the board of directors. And so I sort of mainly help on the marketing side of things, and then sort of overseeing the TARC Trail Series, which is our 11 race calendar for the year.
And how many members are in TARC?
So we're a free membership, so it's somewhat loosely tracked, but I mean, we have a really strong Facebook community with 8,000 plus members, and thousands of runners at events throughout the year, and at our group runs. I'd say our events are anywhere from 100 to 600 runners, and our group runs tend to be 20 to 50 runners, depending on the weather and such.
Pretty solid.
Wow. That's
good
awesome.
group.
But that's interesting. I mean, I think that's interesting too, that you say it's a free membership, right? Because a lot of the groups that we have very nominal memberships. Why free? Like, can you just talk a little bit more about that? Is it just accessibility? Is it just like, hey, we just want more people to run the trails? How do you guys, is it from people paying to be in the trail races and events that the group is funded?
Yeah. So, I think the biggest thing is just trying to remove any sort of barriers to access. And so that's probably one of the main reasons, keeping things free for the membership side of things. And then even, our race entries are really, we try to keep them as low cost as we can. I mean, $25 for 100K. Not too many races that's that cheap. But we still deliver on like a exceptional experience for runners. So it's not, I think we sometimes say, oh, we're like no frills, no awards, no, don't expect too much. But I think we definitely like over deliver on the experience, and I think that comes from a place of everyone wanting to give back, and they're appreciative of that accessibility, and in turn they give more as a result.
So if we wanted to be in the know on your next training run, do we sign up for the Facebook? Do we sign up through an email list? How do you communicate what you're doing each week, each month?
I'd say the best place to join is the Facebook community. We definitely post all of our organized events and races there. And it's also just a great resource for anyone who's sort of in the New England trail running community. We definitely promote a lot of other races throughout New England, and a lot of people will sort of host impromptu runs or adventures. Oh, I'm headed up to the Whites next weekend to do the Pemi Loop. Anyone want to join? Kind of thing. And just for also newer trail runners, like a lot of people will ask for training advice or gear advice or things like that. So I think the Facebook group is a really wealth of information. And then we also are on all the social media platforms, and Strava, Instagram, and tend to post events there. And then we do have a newsletter and potentially a podcast in the future. We had a TARC, it was called TARC Tales, which was launched a couple of years ago, and we're trying to revive that. So that's really, sort of feature different members of the community as well.
Excellent.
But, yeah.
Awesome. So what's your journey into endurance sports and trail running, and how has that played a significant role in your life? Because it seems to be a huge part of your life right now.
Totally. Yeah. I've been running pretty much all my life. Actually, so I grew up in Needham, Massachusetts, and when there's a race there, the Great Bear Run, which took place like literally right in my backyard, and they have races for, toddlers, 2-year-olds all the way till they actually just hosted the 5K for the New England Grand Prix yesterday. But anyways, that was a like sort of annual thing that me and my family did. And then I also participated a lot in Needham Track Club and other sort of youth programs. And yeah, I just loved running. And I think I was more focused on team sports initially. And then come middle school and high school, sort of dove more into cross country and track and field. And it was just like, oh, this is what I love about all the other sports was the running component. So why not just completely go all in on running? And yeah, in terms of the trail side of things and longer distances, I just always felt like, I don't know, the more time that I could spend out there, the better. And so naturally, ultras sounded pretty appealing to me, even in high school. And, I started to dabble in them, toward the end of high school.
So should we jump into the events now?
Yeah, let's get into the races.
So do you want to start with, can we just get into Stonecat?
Let's
just
do
because
it.
That's all I want to talk. So Stonecat is a race near and dear to my heart. I don't know how many times I've done it. It's up in Willowdale, which is a popular place, as many of our listeners will know, from both mountain biking and trail running and horseback riding. And it was run for many years by GAC, right?
Yes.
Is that, So GAC is another sort of, are they still
They're still around. Gill's Athletic Club at the Topsfield. I think their motto is bunch of crazy runners and Topsfield.
They're an interesting group, and I don't know if we need them on or not, but maybe they would have some good stories to tell.
Totally.
But I ran the official last Stonecat ever 2 years ago, and then by the grace of God, TARC came in and said Stonecat's back. And last year. So talk to us a little bit about Stonecat, why you guys came in, saved the race. What do you guys think about the race? What's the distances for the race?
Yeah, definitely. So Stonecat, has quite a lot of history to it. It's been around since 2001 and had a marathon and 50 miler were sort of the primary distances. And then in the last couple of years of the event, they switched to 50K. And hosted a Willowdale State Forest, really beautiful scenic trails, hosted in early November every year. And I actually have yet to run it, which is a problem. I definitely want, it was always on my radar, but by that time of year, I was had committed to other things. Or
when does it happen?
November, like first weekend in November, typically. And this year is November 2nd.
So you got to worry about slippery leaves.
Yeah, a little bit. Not too bad,
roots.
But
there's been some bad weather, man.
Sometimes, yeah.
It is not.
I know there's been some,
there's been some muddy,
several
slippery,
inches of mud or water on the trails, but it makes for a fun time. I think. So I'd been familiar with the race for several years, and when I saw that it was going to be, the last race in 2022, I just felt sad about that. I was like, one, I haven't run it myself, and then I just knew how many people loved and appreciated that race and how many people it also introduced to the sport. I meet people all around the country who are like, oh, Stonecat was my first trail race or my first marathon or my first ultra. Like people who, don't seem to have any direct connection with like New England or Massachusetts. And it's like, they know Stonecat. And so it just felt like an important race to keep going if possible. And so I just reached out, probably through the website. I think I just emailed whatever email was on the site and said, hey, I saw that you guys were planning to shut things down, and just curious like why that is and if there's anything I can do to help. And kind of quickly learned that they were just looking for a new race director. They were open to the idea of it continuing, but having committed to a race for 2+ decades, they're ready for sort of something new. And a lot of these races that are volunteer led, it's a huge endeavor to undertake every year and requires quite a few volunteers to be able to staff a 50-mile ultra in the woods. And so just finding volunteers to keep it going is also challenging. And so when I learned that, I just felt like TARC, we've really sort of established ourselves over the past couple decades, and we have a really strong volunteer base and participant base to sort of get behind and support an event.
That's really important to have. That's a luxury.
Totally.
There is one big issue.
What's this?
Do you know what I'm going to say, Pat?
I don't know.
It was like 2 miles long in 23. So I'm just telling you, there were a tremendous number of extremely tired, angry people.
Hang on, time out.
Yeah.
I'm confused because I'm not from the running world. You're telling me a 2-mile loop is long?
No. I'm telling you, instead of it being 26.2, it was 28 point something.
Oh, got it.
So there may have been some bonus miles, but so
that's horrible.
So we had quickly, like, spring came around and they were like, okay, TARC, you can do this thing. And I sort of, I guess, took the reins there because I didn't necessarily want to maybe be the race director, but no one else was coming in. So I said, okay, I'll do this. We opened registration in July and it sold out, within, days. So I think that's when I first was introduced to you. I think you emailed me saying like, oh, thanks so much for keeping this going. But we've wanted to sort of do a new spin on things and sort of in TARC fashion add a bunch of different distances. And so we added a 10K, we added a half marathon, we kept the marathon, we kept the 50 miler, and then for the real, extremists added 100K. And we switched up the course as well, which is what Eric is getting to. But before, the course had, a fair amount of more the double track open trails. And there's a lot of really great, like, single track mountain bike trails in Willowdale. And my friend Josh Katzman, who is one of the leaders within the TARC community, he'd run Stonecat a number of years, and he's like, he was the one who I sort of put in charge of the course. So
we're going to blame Josh, right? So you just threw Josh under the bus, to be clear.
Yeah. I mean, somewhat. It was his GPS file that was the course. And he will adamantly say that it was exactly 12.5 miles. But yeah, there may have been some bonus in there. But I think, the overall feedback, even though it was a little bit longer, was people really liked
the route was awesome. The route. Right. So I mean, that's one of the places I run the most. And I was introduced to new trails at Willowdale based on that route. So it was awesome. I'm giving you a hard time. In particular, I'm going to give a shout out to my buddy Jeff Hamilton, who had a tough day and came back through the finish line chute and was very upset.
Yeah, maybe some swearing is had. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, I think, part of it was the trails themselves were tougher. So I think when people, are expecting the finish line and still had maybe another mile or so to go, it's like, oh, I want to be done.
So when does Reg open for Stonecat 2024?
So we actually opened it early, so it's open now. We got, but there are still spots, but we just wanted to get a jump start on things. It's open and same distances, same $25 race entry fee. Sign up.
What are some of the other events that you guys run?
So we've got a whole range and a whole range of sort of terrain styles as well. So we kick things off in sort of January, February with the Frozen Yeti. It's a 15-mile and 30-hour ultra at Hale Reservation in Westwood.
Oh, I love Hale Reservation.
It's awesome.
It's such a cool spot.
It's great, and we get to use their lodge there as
and
sort
I'll
of
just
our
mention,
home base.
It's an excellent spot to mountain bike.
Yes. Yeah.
So, yep.
I think there's a theme here, though, right? I mean, we're sort of where there's going to be good mountain biking, there's going to be good trail running, right? I think there's something.
Yeah,
there's
and a lot
something
of
to be said
there's
for
a
that.
lot of. I feel like there's a lot of always mountain bike trail development, and it's always, trail runners always get happy about that because it also makes for a good single track. And yeah, so our first race is Frozen Yeti, and that's some years the ground is bare and it's super runnable, and then other years we've got 2 feet of snow on the ground, or 2 years ago it was that negative 20-degree day that weekend that was just brutally cold. That was the weekend of the Frozen Yeti, and people were wearing ski masks and goggles at the starting line. So yeah, that kicks things off, and then we have another one in March at Hale Reservation, a 6-hour ultra, and then our very first event in 1997. People get a kick out of this. It's called Don't Run Boston. It's the Sunday before the Boston Marathon. Kind of converting people to maybe not run roads and run trails. And that's a 50K and 50-mile ultra in Blue Hills Reservation. And then we've got Spring Classic in Westwood in the weekend after Boston Marathon. That's a really nice, accessible loop. And then we just had a couple weekends ago Wapak and back. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Wapak Trail.
No, where's that?
Sort of southern New Hampshire and goes into Massachusetts, sort of near Mount Monadnock. And there's a really sort of aesthetic 21.5-mile ridgeline traverse. So it's one of our more challenging races.
Anywhere near the Mid-State Trail? What's it called?
Pretty sure
I think it's called the
Mid-State Trail.
Yeah.
It's definitely. You'd have to fact check me on that one, but I think it's pretty close.
So what was the trail? What was it called again?
Wapak and back. So we've got
Wapak
the
and
one-way
back.
traverse. Then we have an out and back for 43 miles, and then for the people who like the nice round number of 50 miles, you can tag one more summit. And usually what happens is people go out and back and they say, I don't need that extra 7 miles. I'm good.
Does it go up and over Monadnock?
Not Monadnock. So Watatic is the main mountain there. But yeah, there's several little peaks. Yeah.
We'll edit that out.
Yeah, so that one's one of our more challenging races for sure, and a more it's sort of southern, similar to sort of running in the whites kind of style terrain. Then we've got another one at Blue Hills on the Skyline Trail, which people love. Also, really gnarly, rocky route. We've got the Summer Classic in Medfield at Noon Hill Reservation. And then the Fall Classic, which I direct up at Great Brook. Make sure I'm not forgetting anything here. Then we have Stonecat. And then we have the Tarky Trot in Winchester, kind of near here, guys.
Did you say Tarky?
Tarky Trot, yeah, with a little play on words there. And that's a 6-hour. It's cool. It's a 5K loop, and you run the 5K loop for as many hours within that 6-hour time period as you want. So some people go and run a couple loops. Some people go and run 12 loops. And it's really nice because, you don't need to run with much. You go through this really beautiful barn, and they've got a bunch of goats and stuff there and chickens. It's fun, you got some animal spectators. And then we wrap things up with the Winter Classic at Middlesex Fells, also on the other Skyline Trail that Boston has.
Right, I got to say something here. I'm blown away by the sheer number of events, and having spoken to 603 Endurance and some of these other groups, there's this tremendous need and desire, and I guess supply for trail running at great lengths.
Totally.
We're not talking 5 and 10Ks here. I mean, we're talking like 6
No,
hour events.
you just had a race. What was it? 2 weekends ago, Cocodona.
Yeah.
There's a 250. I mean, that one doesn't happen in New England, but a 250-mile trail race.
I'll say maybe we need a 200 in New England.
Maybe we do, right? TARC would be the group
Maybe
to
an
do
out
it.
and back on the Mid-State Trail.
But there's something, Art, to that extent, I don't think it's much different than cycling. You can go super hard and you can hammer, but trail running is as close to cycling as I think you'll find because it's social, right? Mm-hmm. It's conversational. It's not, I mean, yes, there are hammer fests, but at the same time, it's like riding 2x2 and you're having a conversation and sometimes you go hard and sometimes it's single track and sometimes it's uphill, it's downhill. But for me, trail running is my golf, right? That's my social outing with my friends. And we solve most of the world's problems on the runs and then forget everything when we get back. But I do, and maybe people just want to talk longer.
Yeah, that's such a big part of it is the community. That's definitely what keeps people coming back. And that's, for me, like directing and volunteering at these events, like they feel like, family reunions every time you show up.
How do you make sure people feel welcome and supported in your events?
Yeah, just like celebrating every runner, not focused necessarily on the competitive side of the event, but every single runner who comes across the finish line, we really celebrate and support. I think our volunteers are incredibly passionate and enthusiastic. And so when you're coming through aid stations throughout the day, you just get so much support. And people sort of intuitively know what you might need. And I feel like, you might not know what you need, but the aid station volunteers know how to help you out. I think that's a big part of it. And then trail running just attracts a really great group of people.
That's what I'm getting. That's what I'm getting.
And if people show up, is there an event that, for the first time trail runner, is there one of these incredible events that you've kind of mentioned? Is one better than the other? I want to focus a lot on community and building the community. Yeah.
In terms of our events, I mean, we try to make all of them, pretty accessible. In terms of terrain, ones like the Spring Classic in Weston or Fall Classic or even Stonecat, which offer sort of variety of distances and are on, relatively, not overly technical trails, tend to attract the more newer trail runners. But even, having these sort of fixed time events, so a 6 hour or a 30 hour, things like that, are really nice because there's no set distance for the finish line. You can come out and, decide that day how many miles you want to run. And so that sort of removes some of the intimidation factor of oh, wow, I've got to make it from this point to this point. It's no, you can just run in loops and you have friends to support you all day and you can take a nap and then get back out there or whatever.
Where do you see the TARC community going 5 years from now, if you wave your magic wand?
Keeping what we have and building upon that. Really, I think one thing that we're really trying to focus on building is our group runs. So those sort of went away a bit during the pandemic, and we're trying to build that back up. And I think that's a great way for someone who might, not everyone wants to race. Not that our races are hardcore races, but some people just want to run with friends in the woods on the weekends. And so I think we're trying to build our group runs, maybe expand upon the locations of those group runs. Even thinking of things like having group runs closer to Boston, closer to public transportation, things like that. There's a lot of trail running that's, fairly accessible to the city, but sort of bringing more light and exposure to those places. I don't know. That's, I think, one of the goals. And then continuing to support the nonprofits that we donate to from our events. I think that's one of the things that, that I'm at least working on with some of with Fall Classic and Stonecat, is, having, for example, at Stonecat, we support Greenbelt and the Essex Country Trail Association,
ECT.
Yeah, ECTA.
Essex County Trail Association.
Yeah, and like a couple other local organizations, and trying to have them come to our events and sort of promote what they're doing, and other volunteer opportunities. I think like trail work is something that's always needed, and so connecting our audience with those organizations that almost always need support and help.
What are examples of some of the organizations you mentioned, like Great Brook Farm and Hale Reservation and ECTA? Are there others?
Yeah, so Hale Reservation or Hale Education, we support them with our event proceeds from Frozen Yeti and from TARC to Hale and back. And they, have really awesome summer programs for youth, and just a great network of trails. So we support them. And then, usually they're tied to where the race is held. So like the Spring Classic, we support it's at the Jericho Town Forest in Weston. And so we donate to their organization. At Blue Hills, the Friends of the Blue Hills, we support what they're doing.
That's fantastic.
So it really, keeping it local for the most part in terms of who we support. But yeah, I guess like one of the goals is beyond that sort of monetary financial support, also providing, the people they need, I guess.
Yeah. This is the holy grail here, Eric. We've got community building in the endurance community, and then we're also helping the surrounding community with these conservation lands or, trusts. And I love that. That's cool.
But this is what we're trying to get to, where the community is welcoming the athletes onto the properties versus it being more of a fight. Like we don't, you and I were just discussing the Arlington pump track, right? And that some part of the community doesn't want that. Other parts of the community does want that.
Yeah.
So we want the community to say, wow, yeah, let's absolutely have a trail race. Those people are awesome. We're going to raise money. We're going to get volunteers. They leave the place clean after they're done.
And they give money back.
So, I mean, that's the flywheel of this endurance community that I hope we're...
Awesome.
And I do think we're hearing that theme more, right? As maybe it's just the folks that we've interviewed, because those are races that people always talk about that are fun, or groups, but they all seem to be stewards of the land and stewards of the endurance community, and they all wave. They all wave when they see each other.
It really, I think adds to the experience, and it makes for a really feel good event to know that, not only are you, running with an awesome community, but you're also giving back. I think it, just adds another level to sort of the experience.
What advice would you give someone who's new to trail running and is considering joining a club like TARC?
I'd say, just show up. First step. That's always the hardest with any sort of running. Even just people's own training, just getting out the door is always the hardest part for most people. So just show up to one of our group runs at Blue Hills or Great Brook, and you'll be welcomed with open arms. We've got, we'll lead. We tend to have several run leaders on site, and we'll lead, we'll accommodate whatever you're looking for. So whether that's a 1 mile loop at Blue Hills or, something longer, our motto is no trail animal left behind.
I love it.
And we definitely focus on connecting people with other people, and really promote the post-run socializing as well. But just show up.
All right. So we got to ask, what you hold the world record for the young 19 and 20-year-old fastest 100-mile.
Yeah, it might just be me who I'm competing with, but no.
I don't think so.
Can you just touch a little bit on that?
Yeah, so I ran, pretty right when I got into ultra running, I just felt, as many people do, I want to run 100 miles.
You're sick.
I mean, it's just a nice sounding number, and it's like, I don't know, just to be able to do that in a day sounds really, really awesome to some people, I guess. But that's my kind of crowd. So yeah, I ran. Actually, well, I'd signed up for this race in New Hampshire. It's called the Ghost Train Rail Trail Races. They have a really incredible Ghost Train Rail Trail Races. Okay. So it's hosted on a rail trail in Brookline and Milford, New Hampshire, similar to TARC. They were actually part of the TARC series at one point. All of the event proceeds go back to support that rail trail. And it's just it's a 7.5 mile out, 7.5 mile back course along, it's mid-October, perfect fall foliage, nice weather. And so I had signed up for that as my first 100, but I then felt the urge to run 100 before that for some reason. I said, I can't wait that long. I think I'd signed up, beginning of the year, and it was in October. So I ended up doing another 100 that summer. That was kind of the opposite of Ghost Train, very mountainous, rugged.
How fast are you doing these? What is the fastest 19, 20-year-old times?
So I did it in just under 14 hours, 13:50. Wow. So it's around like 8:15 pace.
It's awesome.
And crazy. Yeah, so yeah, I don't know. I just, I think 100 miles in a day is a cool thing to shoot for. And, when I first ran Ghost Train in 2016, I didn't know anyone. Like, I just showed up alone, had, my own little setup. And by the end of the day, like, had met so many people who were like, offering so much support and help. For me, I think that, ultra endurance community definitely tends to be an older population. You don't see many, I guess, teenagers running ultras. So I felt a little out of place, but yeah, by the end of the day, I felt like, just such a part of that family. And I've gone back every year since.
That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that.
Pat, Move Free is another really, really cool initiative, organization that you started. Can you just tell us a little bit about that and what inspired you to create it, and what is it?
Yeah, Move Free, I launched in 2019. It sort of just stemmed from an idea of wanting to give back in a larger way through my own running and sort of create a new platform to do that through. And I've always been someone who, loved fun running apparel and hats. And so I first viewed it as, I'll just start a fun, hat company. And it has evolved a lot over the years. But that's, in 2019 was when I first launched sort of my first products, and then have continued to sort of build out the product line.
What are the products?
So I started with hats, and then now sort of have, a full range of things.
Talking like trucker hats or winter hats?
It's actually, so our first hats were more like a cycling hat, but I found that there was sort of a need in the running community for cool, I feel like cycling hats you can do a lot of cool things with and make some funky designs, and the flip lid style I like. And so, they definitely took off in the running community, but also I found my products are really popular with bikers, with ultralight backpackers. Started with hats, sort of have hoodies, shirts, buffs, assortment of things. But in the last couple of years, I've sort of tried to expand beyond sort of the product side of things and really build the community. And so we launched some running retreats, actually. And currently we host 2 running retreats up in Acadia National Park, which is just a really gorgeous, beautiful place to explore, and has, really unique network of trails just being right there on the ocean.
Doing the carriage roads?
We do some, I would say our carriage road runs are our shakeout runs. And then in the mornings we do try to do something more mountainous.
Like Mount Sargent, Penobscot.
Yeah, all those guys. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Head over to Jordan Pond, do a nice loop there. Just sort of showcase the beauty of the island. I'm kind of continuing to expand to other locations around New England, but it's nice. Like, running retreats, I think, are a great sort of intimate way to, get connected with other runners.
You're giving me ideas here for a cycling retreat.
Cycling retreats would be epic, yeah. Or like bike packing retreats where you're sort of going from one point to another. That would be super cool too. Awesome. So that's sort of the direction Move Free has gone in.
So we like to ask folks who've been involved with the endurance community, participating in racing and whatever, what are some of your favorite endurance events in New England and any hidden gems that the audience might want to hear about? I mean, you mentioned the Ghost Train Rail Trail I've never heard of. Is there anything that sticks out as you?
Yeah.
It could be your event or somebody else's event.
Yeah, I think definitely Ghost Train's definitely top of the list for sure. I love a lot of the kind of itty bitty teeny races that are around too. I mean, just, I don't know, the vibe of some of those is great. There's actually a race up in north of Acadia, the Bold Coast Bash on the Cutler Coast. It's in November, and that's a really, really cool trail, and you're right on the coastline. Some really technical trails, and it's just a really fun vibe. I mean, you've got just a fire going at the start, and fire afterwards to warm up in, and Maine November. It's a little chilly.
Wow. That's such a hidden gem, man.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful place to be.
Like how far further north from Acadia?
Couple hours.
Is it like Jonesport?
It's practically on the Canadian.
Wow.
Border.
Holy cow!
You're crazy.
Is that near where the free marathon is? What was the one that we learned about?
Millinocket Marathon.
Millinocket Marathon. Yeah,
that's a great one.
Well, Millinocket's inland, I guess, right? That would be more inland. But boy, Maine sort of been coming through with the hidden gems.
Yep.
Actually, there's a lot of good stuff there for sure.
Awesome.
I like it all. I think New Hampshire hosts quite a few awesome races. Sounds like you had some New Hampshire folks on. But any of the ski mountains there, I love some of those events. And then also I'm really, I love also the FKT side of things, where maybe it's not a race, but pick a really cool route. New England has so many of them. I think I briefly mentioned the Pemi Loop. That's one of my favorites in New Hampshire. Acadia has the Acadia Round, which is also similar sort of version of Pemi. But that's something that I have kind of fell more in love with is the FKT stuff, because you can do it any day of the year. Invite friends if you want. But yeah.
That's great. Nice.
Notice nobody has mentioned Connecticut. For any of the
they've got some great ultras down there.
Gems.
No, they've got some good stuff, and they actually
could you
have
name one?
The Connecticut Ultra Traverse. It's coming up.
Oh, here we go.
Pretty sure it's next month. And they actually have a podcast down there too. I'll give them a shout out. But the Cultura podcast. But they've got a great ultra and trail community.
There we go.
But
good.
It's 112 miles, and you traverse probably quite a bit of Connecticut. And yeah, pretty tough race.
Would love to chat with you.
Wow, that sounds awesome. All right, well, that was a great segue, I think, to the final question, Pat.
All right,
and hopefully you're prepared. When you come in prepared, it's great. But the question everybody's been waiting for, and that is, you've had a chance to run and train, I assume, all over the world. Tell us why you agree that New England is the greatest region of the country for endurance sports.
Well, I'll speak for myself. I think there's definitely quite a few great places around. But yeah, I have been able to travel, around the U.S. to Europe to other countries, and I continue to come back to New England. And even thinking about moving out of New England is a hard thought, just because I really love the community that is here. There's a really core, dedicated and passionate community of endurance athletes, and a lot of history too. And yeah, also just the style of terrain, for trail running, but also for other stuff. I appreciate sort of the forested nature of New England, and I love how rugged our mountains are. And from like a training perspective, I think it builds really, really tough athletes. I think if you can do well in sort of New England weather, New England terrain, then you're likely gonna crush it elsewhere as well. So yeah.
Love it.
But yeah,
that's awesome. Great answer, Pat. Pat, Caron, thank you for being on the New England Endurance Podcast and sharing your amazing story and hearing about TARC and Move Free. You're making a huge positive impact on the community, and I'm glad that we could share this with our listeners, our millions of listeners out there. So thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah. Thanks so much. This was lots of fun.
Yeah, and thanks to all our sponsors who power this podcast. We've got Lark Fine Foods. You will be receiving a delicious assortment of Lark Fine Foods, which is a 100% woman-owned specialty food company baking delicious small batch cookies inspired by grown-up consumers with sophisticated tastes. In fact, the Lark COO is a Stonecat alumni and one of my training partners, so he'll be happy.
They should come out this year.
Maybe there should be a cookie segment out there. And if this podcast hits before Father's Day, Endurance Dad for a little discount on some cookies. We've got The Everyday Athlete, a book about balancing work, family, and fitness, so you can find the time to go run the trails. And finally, Kinetic, and you should experience the brain-boosting benefits of ketones on demand that taste great at drinkkinetic.com. That's KENETIK. And for those that want to learn more about TARC, go to trailanimals.com. We will tag them. We'll try to tag as many tons of things that we learned about today. And you can find those all on our Instagram page, which is at New England Endurance.
Great. And until next time, get out there, rain or shine, hit the trails, drop some hammers, and enjoy the beautiful terrain of New England.